So, so we did calls and puts and options. So we learned some of the various that are needed in there with the price of the option and how those work with the exercise price. And today we're going to cover an interest rate swap. So another way that companies can change their positions is to engage in a contract called a swap. So it's another form of a hedge. So interest rate swap. Suppose two companies, A and B, alpha and beta, have loans with lenders that they would love to switch if they could. So that's the scenario. We got two companies, A and B. They each have loans with different lenders. And they could be looking at each other across the table and say, man, if I had your terms, I'd be all set. And the other one's saying, if I had your terms, I'd be all set. So for whatever reason, it works to their advantage that they'd like to change up their loan terms. Okay, so suppose company A is sitting over here, and they have borrowed $1 million at the Libor rate plus 2%. So Libor, Josh, I'm going to pick on you. Do you know what this one is? The Libor rate? I'm picking on you for a specific reason because of where you're from and where you live. The Libor rate. So it's the London, I can't remember what it stands for exactly, the London Interbank something. So it's basically equivalent of our commercial lending rates to your best customers. So it's a rate that is stated, and it can fluctuate from time to time. So you can tag your interest rate to different standardized rates. So in the United States, we might do the commercial lending rate. You can do it at the federal funds rate. You can tie it to anything. So it's not uncommon to put a spread over some commonly known rate. And that can change from time to time. So you might have a 5-year adjustable loan, and each year your interest rate is going to stay fixed at Libor as of, let's see again, 315. The 315 Libor rate is at 5%, plus 2% is 7%. That's going to stay fixed on its anniversary rate of 315 of 2018. Then we're going to open up the newspaper in London, although they publish this in the Wall Street Journal too, of course. And whatever that rate is 1 year from now, we're going to add 2% to it, and that's going to be your new interest rate for the upcoming year. Okay? So that's not unusual to have loans that are set up that way. So that is the deal that company A has with their lender. So they've got this with whoever their lender is. Lender 1. All right, so in period 1, could be this year, let's say that the Libor rate is currently at 5%. which means the effective interest rate for company A, the nominal interest rate for company A, is going to be 5 plus 2% equals 7%. Okay, if period 2 comes along and Libor has changed to 4%, then company alpha here is now going to face an interest rate in period 2 next year of 6%. So they have a variable rate loan, right? And an adjustable rate mortgage is what we think of in household terms if we have a mortgage for a house, an adjustable rate. And that's the deal that they agreed to for their $1 million loan. Okay, questions on that? So what kind of interest payment is company alpha making to lender numero uno here in terms of dollars? Just to keep our brains engaged here. 70,000, right? So 7%. So they're going to owe $70,000 on the $1 million loan. And when the rate is 6%, they owe $60,000. That's how much interest they're going to be forking over. Okay, so let's check out company B over here. So there's company A. Company B, I should have maybe warned you, it'd be nice to have this set up side by side. Company B, not necessary, but that's the way I'm going to kind of do it. So company B also borrows $1 million. But they got a fixed rate. At a fixed rate of 8%. So whatever the term of their payment is, they're hooked up with lender dos here, and they're going to be shelling out $80,000. They have a fixed rate loan with their lender for every period. Okay, so now, was company B a sucker because they could have shopped around a little bit and went to lender 1? Are they kind of a sucker?
At this point, yeah.
At this point, yeah, can we judge a decision in hindsight? Can we judge a decision? Can we judge a decision in hindsight? I mean, really judge a decision to say that you made the wrong move. Can we judge a person's decision in hindsight like that? So before the decision was made, what were they looking at? What are some of the things they're taking into consideration?
The Libor interest rate?
Yeah, so the Libor interest rate, how could these guys have looked like geniuses? What would have needed to happen? Libor went up. So if the Libor went up to 8%, then these guys are playing I didn't need to go that strong. If the Libor went up to 7%, 7 plus 2 is 9. They're paying more. Okay? So is it fair after the fact to say you made a bad decision? Is that a fair thing to do? Not really. Why? What's not fair about it? To say that you made a bad decision. What would that assume? That what?
The loan is a period.
Possibly a one-period loan, but that would change the circumstances. So I want to keep the periods the same, that we have multi-periods. Did I say, Kaylee, did you say something, or Chisholm?
I was saying about they use all the information that they had.
Yeah, okay, so they used all the information that they had. Is it possible to know with certainty what the Libor is going to do? No, of course not, right? So my PhD professor, who was this super brainiac guy. Gosh, he would just stand up there and do equations all day long, all off of the top of his head. He said some words to me in class one day in my PhD microeconomics class, and he said, "You can't judge a decision ex post. You can't judge a decision ex post. You can only judge it ex ante." Now, who knows a little bit of Latin? Ex post and ex ante. Anybody know that? What's that? Yeah, before and after. Good. So what is ex post? After or before? After. So he said you can't judge a decision ex post or after the fact, because then we know things that we didn't know before. We can kick ourselves all day long and say, crap, I really blew it. I coulda, woulda, shoulda, do it, but didn't. But as Chisholm said, if we used all the information rationally before I made my decision, then there's always a chance in hindsight, you're either going to learn that was a decision that made you better off or a decision that made you worse off. But as long as you used all of the information available before the fact, ex ante, then that was where you judged the decision. And then, as Chisholm said, you go back and say, well, did you make a good decision? Well, did you look at all the information that was available? If you didn't use all the information and there was like this fact out there or something that was obvious that, I missed that. I should have known that the Libor was going to go up or down because of this reason that I just was lazy and didn't get enough information. Yeah, you made a stupid decision. But you see, the reason why we're making a stupid decision is that we didn't gather enough information. We're not focused on the outcome that happened, but rather the circumstances before which the action took place. So you can't judge a decision ex post. So this comes from Dr. LePan, Russ McCullough's PhD professor. Dr. LePan, quote, I think he might have stole it from somebody, but although he might not have, he's a pretty brilliant guy. You can't judge a decision ex post. And the explanation is, if true uncertainty exists, you can, it is only rational anyway, you can only rationally judge the decision ex ante, before the fact. And of course, the normal, average, non-econ major student does this all the time. I made a bad decision. No, you just got a bad outcome. Your decision might have been perfectly good if you looked at all the information beforehand. Okay, Tyler?
Joe brought up, what about Allison?
What about Allison? What about it?
But what he concludes with what seems like judging a decision
After the fact. So you can what's happened with Allison that he's creating judgment? Let's talk about that for a little bit, because I think it's relevant. What is Allison claiming happened ex ante? What went on ex ante, before the fact, before the crisis, if you will, right? Before the crisis happened. What's going on ex ante? Yeah, legislation changes, policy changes, right? Things that we're doing, actions that we're taking, and are they using all the information possible? Well, not really, if they're just kind of in the state of euphoria that they think they can alter things and kind of distort things, keep interest rates low, and keep the movement chugging along. So Allison claims I can use economic reasoning and say that this baby's not sustainable. If we keep interest rates this low for that long, we might not be able to predict when it's going to happen, but something's going to happen. And so that's where I think Allison would probably fit into this, is that yes, we're looking at the outcome that was bad, and was the decision for the government, for the Federal Reserve, for instance, to do what they did, was that a good decision? And so Allison would say, no, there's economic reasoning that you should have been thinking about that wouldn't be a good idea. So I think that's how it would fit into that. Good comment. Whether it was yours or Joe's, I'm not sure who. So where did that come out? Anything else? Yeah, Tay.
Did they raise it a bit?
I haven't heard yet, but they are meeting. Is that what you heard? Quarter point? Okay. So it was pretty much all but totally expected. So it had, I think for the most part, and maybe we'll get back to that graph that either one of you two brought up that I didn't ever finish, because it's kind of related to that. It was probably all but certain that the market planned for a quarter point raise today. And so most of the prices out there probably reflected a quarter point raise before it actually happened, right? Based on their expectations. So yes, that is the direction we seem to be heading. All right, any other comments here? So interest rate swap. We're not even to the meat of things here yet. All right, so here's what the aha moment is between these two. So the interest rate swap looks like this. Interest rate swap. Company A agrees to pay Company B. This is a side deal, kind of a side bet. Each one of them are going to keep their loan agreements with lender 1 and lender 2, but Company A agrees to pay 7% interest on a notional $1 million to Company B. So this guy over here says, hey, I'm going to pay you 7% on a notional $1 million. We call it notional because he doesn't really owe, neither one of them has that $1 million, but we're basing the calculation on the $1 million figure. And on the flip side, Company B is going to pay Libor plus 1% on the notional $1 million. Okay, does everybody understand the side deal that these two companies are making with each other on how the flow of funds is going to work? Good there? Do you see how it equalized it or not? Looks kind of crazy at this point, doesn't it? See the equalizing factor here? Who's fixing and who's keeping it variable? They wanted to swap. Did they effectively swap? Let's do a little accounting. So how about for period 1, Alpha pays lender 1 $70,000. They still owe this debt. So we got $70,000 in period 1 going towards lender 1. But now Alpha also pays Company B, Alpha pays Beta $70,000. Because they agreed to pay 7% on a notional $1 million. But now Beta pays Alpha how much? $60,000. So the Libor rate is 5%. 5% plus 1%, 6%. So they're going to get $60,000 back. And so at the end of the day, if we kind of think about all this, we've got an $80,000 payment being made in total for Company A. What does period 2 look like? Alpha's going to pay their lender $60,000 now. Period 2, Libor went down. So we got $60,000. They're going to pay Beta the fixed rate of 7%, $70,000. Beta's going to come back to Alpha with the new Libor rate at 4%. We got the 4 plus 1 is 5, recouping 50. Add those three up, $80,000. Okay, questions on Alpha? On the Beta side, we've got Beta pays lender 2 in period 1, $80,000, because they always owe $80,000. Beta pays Alpha the amount we just had come in the other direction here, right? The $60,000. So that's their outflow of cash. But now Alpha pays Beta the $70,000 coming the other way. Add those all up, and that's going to be $70,000 worth of total interest paid by Beta. Period 2, they still owe their lender $80,000. They have a fixed rate loan. Beta pays Alpha on the flip side the $50,000 now with the interest rate drop. And we've got the fixed payment back. Add those all up, and we get $60,000. So once all of the accounting is done, they have effectively swapped interest rates. Right? Prior to when we started, Company A was paying 70, then 60, and then 80-80 for both periods, and now they've effectively swapped. Questions on that? I'll let you catch up a little. All right, so the notional balance, you can make a little note to yourself here. I'll squeeze it in here. You can put it below all this if you want, but notional is only used to calculate interest, but is never exchanged. Okay, so why would these two want to do that? Again, it kind of looks foolish that they'd want to do this swap. Why would they want to do it? What are some stories we could make up? The floor is open to you, because we could dream up a lot of things. What could possibly going on that Company B wants to take a variable rate. Company A would like to get into a fixed position. Joe? Okay, reduce their risk. So rather than if something else is coming up on their books in their portfolio that higher Libor rate would kind of knock them out, they'd have the opportunity to eliminate that risk and basically pay for that risk by agreeing to lock in. They're paying for it in the sense that currently they're enjoying a cheaper interest rate, but they've totally eliminated that risk by doing the interest rate swap. They got into a fixed position of 8%. And so that might be desirable for whatever is going on with their company. Okay. All right, anything else there?
Would it impact that?
It could actually, yeah. I mean, that could be one of the things with the time. Anything that deals with the timing of future flows. So if there's a payment that these guys know they have to make, they might not want to take on that risk at all. If they want, and we could be talking about a period of time. I just put period 1, period 2. This might be a 10-year loan, right? So we're only 2 years deep into a 10-year loan. Then it starts to make more sense, right? That we can lock in this 8% and totally have a consistent cash flow. One more thing that we don't have to worry about. All right, anything else? Yes?
Is there a market for that, or do you just call up a buddy at another company and say, hey, I see we have similar loans?
Yeah, no, good question. So the investment banks would be keeping track of this stuff. So they would call up their representative at Goldman Sachs and say, hey man, I wanna try to get into a fixed position. Is there anybody out there that would be willing to do that? And so what gets negotiated is this, right? So this is on the table as far as between these two. Of course, these guys are both fixed contractually with their lender. But now this part here makes it possible to, there's a price to be paid. Well, how much are you willing to pay to get a nice, sweet fixed rate of 8%? And then this will be negotiated accordingly. Because if we drop this to 0.5%, that's going to be more favorable this direction, right? And all of a sudden these payouts are going to change. So it's a marketable thing. Goldman Sachs is going to want some sort of brokerage fee of some sort of service fee. They will also, by the way, probably manage all of those payments so that the interest is actually coming their way, that they're hitting the margin accounts. And they would probably just take the difference between the two. So, hey, you owe, let's see, I gotta make sure I picked the right one. A pays B, but B pays A. We're not gonna actually cut checks for the full amount, but I'll take the difference, right? And so then Goldman Sachs will take the difference and put it into the right person's account. All right, so yeah, that's how that one would probably shake out. All right, anything else? Let's look at that graph. I barely started it, so we'll basically just start from where we were. You know what? No, I take that back. Much more fruitful to get your brains flowing a little bit more. These little problems. Because this will put a little more meat on the bones for thinking about why are we hedging in the first place. A few examples. These are similar to some of the problems you might see on the homework and test. They were just back to the chapter problems. So Paige, this was the chapter 14 financial derivatives sheet. I'll pull that up. I'll put it on the screen here too, but so work with your neighbor and Paige, you can work in a group of 3 with me, myself, and I. I'll try to be there for moral support. But so kind of read through the problems and think about what you'd be doing in this circumstance. So you got the setting for the first one. So we've got $120 million inflow coming 6 months from now, but for your particular business, you would love to lock in the current interest rate. So what would you need to do? What sort of forward contract would we need to get into? Because today's rate you can't do, what would you agree to do? The pension fund you manage expects to have an inflow of $120 million 6 months from now. We don't have it today, but you like the interest rate today. It works for you. What would you need to do? What would you agree to if we were to get into a contract? Think about the other side of the transaction. Is there somebody out there that might be willing to give you the 6% rate and kind of freeze it? You think somebody would be in a position to lock in the 6% rate 6 months from now? Yeah, right? So somebody could be holding on to other bonds or something, and for their position, they would like to get that 6% rate. So because of whatever their circumstances are. So with this one, would we want to purchase or sell $120 million worth of bonds? Are we going to agree to purchase or sell? Purchase. We're just buying 100, right? We don't have the money. The money's coming in, so we're just sitting here. I got an accounts receivable essentially coming in, and so now we could engage in an agreement to purchase as long as that person guarantees us the 6%, right? So we can we can cash that in. So that's a hedge. All right, number 12. If the portfolio you manage is holding $25 million of sixes of 2030 Treasury bonds with a price of 110, what forward contract would you enter into to hedge the interest rate on these bonds over the coming year? I'm going to let you guys chew on that one for a while. Half the battle's getting your arms around what the heck are they talking about. So you manage, the portfolio you have is holding 25 million of the 2030 Treasury bonds. So what's the 2030 business? That's when they mature. So you're holding on to bonds that mature in 2030. So maybe, you know, if it's today's date, it's 2017, we've got 13 years left on these babies, right? What forward contract would you enter in to hedge the interest rate over the next year? Is our forward contract, are we going to be a seller or a buyer? We're a seller, good. And what price? Eric?
227,272. Oh,
No, so just thinking of the treasury bonds right now have a price of 110. What forward contract would you enter into to hedge the interest rate risk on these bonds over the coming year? So if we're looking to keep at par, what's the price? If we're trying to hedge the risk over the 1 year, we've got the sixes. What was the sixes business again? 6% what? Coupon rate. So we've got 6% always coming in on the 25 million. Remember how the bonds go. You're holding $25 million of bonds. The principal's not due till 2030. So you're always guaranteed a check from the government for 6% of the 25 million. That's the flow of funds that are coming in. And right now, are they selling at a premium or a discount? At par's 100. So they're selling at a little bit of a premium, right? So if you want to fix them, you're going to agree to sell them at that same price. So you have them, and you can sell them, and that'll hedge your position. So sell them at 110. Number 13. If you buy a $100,000 June Treasury bond contract for 108, and the price of the deliverable Treasury bond at the expiration date is 102, what is your profit or loss on the contract? So here we are looking ex post, after the fact, right? They're telling you what happened. You buy a Treasury bond for 108, the price of the deliverable at the expiration date is 102. What is your profit or loss? Did we lose money or make money? We lost money, right? And how much did we lose? 6. So on a $100,000 contract, how many dollars did we lose? 6,000. So that's 6 points on the 100,000. So 6% of the 100,000, you lost 6,000 per contract. Number 14, if at the expiration date, the deliverable Treasury bond is selling for 101, but the Treasury bond futures contract is selling for 102, what will happen to the futures price? So be real, hang on the words on this one. If at the expiration date, the deliverable Treasury bond is selling for 102, but the Treasury bond futures contract is selling for 102. So the futures contract selling for 102. What needs to happen between the deliverable price, the actual price of the asset, and the futures price? What's that, Chisholm? They need to become the same. Otherwise, there's a profitable opportunity, right? And so if this was the situation, this is kind of a hypothetical, if that was the case, then we'd end up having a risk-free profit opportunity. Let me just show you guys this because they. So the price needs to fall. Otherwise, you can arbitrage, buy a bond for 101, sell it in the futures contract for 102, and then deliver the bond, thereby making a risk-free profit of a point. this is such a good deal that everybody would be doing it, driving down the price to 101 so that no risk-free profits can be made. So that's kind of our efficient market hypothesis, that anytime we get closer and closer to certainty, then the prices are going to converge on each other for the futures. All right. So these are the types of problems that you might start to see. Let me throw on one more here. Let's look at this 20. Suppose you've got a call option on a $100,000 treasury bond, exercise price of 110 for a premium of 1,500. On expiration, the futures contract has a price of 111. What is your profit or loss on the contract? So a call option, long position or short? With a call. We have the call and the put. Is it an option to buy or an option to sell? Option to buy with the call. So you've got the right to buy it. So suppose that you buy a call option on a $100,000 treasury bond futures contract with an exercise price of 110. The price of the option was 1,500. If on the expiration date the futures contract has a price of 111, what profit? So first of all, are you going to exercise it? You have the right to buy it at 110, and it went up to 111. You are what we call in the money. So you have an executable contract here where you're in the money by $1,000, 1 point. 1 point of the 100,000 is $1,000. So you're up 1,000. But what did you pay for the option? 1,500. So you're actually down 500. But you'll see in your readings, when you have this type of situation, you're still in the money. You're out of the money if it was like 108, because you have the right to buy it at 110 and you basically didn't hit it. And so then your out of pocket is 1,500, just like those graphs that we looked at. You're just going to lose your call price. All right, question now? All right, I wanted to save a little bit of time. I took a little more time than I have in the past to give you guys a nice little cheat sheet for the test. I also emailed it to you, so you might have saw it, but it's sitting in your inbox, this sheet. I've got some good news for you. I took off, I didn't cancel the test, no, it's not that good, but I did cancel the section 4. So basically it just took the 1 chapter off the books for you. So we've got the chapters 6, 7, 8, 12, and 10, which is the first 3 sections of our syllabus. And then I put on some, I guess before I say that, let me point your eyes to the direction here about this test. There are no calculations for the test, okay? So the purpose of this was to kind of be a little bit more conceptual. You got these general concepts. So don't worry about memorizing formulas. I put on here just to kind of cover my tail a little bit, except to the extent that maybe the formula kind of helps conceptually, like the inverse relationship between interest rates and bonds. But we're not going to have any calculations for it. So down here, I put some of the topics, and I'll just tell you, I took some of the things from the test. So this is not all-inclusive. I didn't take everything from the test, but I took some of the bigger topics to give you as buzzwords so that you should go through and make sure you know these at a minimum, but it's not all-inclusive. Don't stop studying just because you got this nailed. So, and then the last part, so I put on, these are going to be all multiple choice for the main textbook Michigan over these chapters. And then the short answer is from the Skousen book, which I recommend that you go through and look at your summaries on Blackboard that you did. Okay, questions? So hopefully this puts it a little bit more in perspective. We've got the yield curve stuff, the risk structure, risk premiums. So there was like 4 different theories of interest rates on why people do what they do or why the yield curve looks the way it looks. Chapter 7, efficient market hypothesis, rational expectations. Then we got into the moral hazard, adverse selection issues of Chapter 8, which kind of plays into the Alvison book quite a bit as well. Also did with the Skousen. Financial crisis, too big to fail. Underwater, what does that mean? For those borrowers of mortgages, subprime mortgages, if you're underwater, yeah, you owe more than your house is worth. So you owe $100,000 on it, it's only worth 80. You're underwater. We talked about taking some haircuts on some of your assets if you need to dump them in a fire sale because you need to sell. Too big to fail. Some of the capital requirements, FDIC, getting into some of those regulations. So, good. Is that what you were hoping for, Kimmy?
Sure.
What were you wanting to do? A full blown?
I kind of wanted to like really key topic.
Well, come and see me.
Okay. No, I mean I have to go. That's fine.
Okay.
I don't have to worry about it.
All right. Well, come and see me. That goes for any of you. If you guys look things over and got some questions, I'll be happy to review it in more detail with you.
So Russ, how am I doing the exam on Friday? Because I know I'm gonna have the camera on me and all that stuff. How do I actually get the exam from you?
I'll end up emailing.
Okay.
So I think that'll be the plan. I had another idea too, but I think I'll probably end up doing the email.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yes, I did. You were the other one needed to talk. So, when did you say 11? Was it? 10.
We're leaving at 12:45.
Okay. Well, that even works better. I generally don't like to give them beforehand. Spring breaks in the way. I have you swear on the Bible and your mother's grave that you'll keep your mouth shut and not tell Kaylee all the fun stuff of what's on the test. So why don't you plan on 10 o'clock? Come into my office. Same situation. Okay. On Friday. When are you leaving? Oh, you guys are both together. Okay. Yeah, why don't you just come in together? 10. Are you 10? Friday? Okay. Yeah. Plan on coming in that. Okay. Well, and Tyler, do you have a class? You had a class before, right? Yeah. Did you have a class before? I can come in a little sooner. Well, I have class till 9:50, but I'm just saying if you come, I have personal finance till 9:50. But if you come in a little bit before that, or just be ready, I'll get you started on it right away. Yeah, I'll probably be in around 9:50. Okay.